This is Maureen Quende, your podcast host, and you are listening to the Empowerment Minutes podcast. For those who are listening for the first time, it's a podcast to empower you with nuggets on learning and development, training, leadership coaching, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. I am a learning leader, researcher, speaker, coach, consultant, and author of the book, Dream Big and Live Your Dreams Boldly. I'm also the CEO and founder of EMK Learning Solutions, LLC. I have been honored to coach instructional designers, trainers to become better leaders. So I'm so excited to be back this week on the show for another empowering episode. But before I start, I want to say thank you so much for being a great fan of the podcast. You take the time to listen every week. Honestly, this keeps me going and it keeps our other guests going. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So as you all know, this is the Women's History Month. And so I am very excited about women empowerment. And so this is a great episode on women empowerment. It's a perfect series for women empowerment. So we're celebrating Women's History Month. So yes, so this whole month, we're going to have just women presenting, women empowering other women, women leaders empowering other women, right? Because as you know, when women get together, magic happens. So let's get into our episode for today, and it's focused on self-awareness. Yes, self-awareness at home or in the workplace. It's something that can benefit you a whole lot. So, and this is going to be by our special guest that I can't wait to introduce you to. And so welcome to the show, Jenna. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to be a guest on the show. Can you please tell us about yourself and what you do in a nutshell? I'm sure our guest would like to know much about you. So without much ado, let's welcome our special guest, Jenna, to the show.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and just honored to participate in today's conversation. A little bit about me. I am John Maxwell certified, a speaker, coach, and trainer. I live in the Philadelphia suburbs in Pennsylvania, and I've got a few focus areas: leadership development, communications, and growth and resilience. So those are kind of my focus areas in business, and I'm celebrating 5 years this year of 5 years as a coach and trainer. And prior to doing this work that I have been doing for the last 5 years, I spent about 20 years in corporate marketing and advertising. So it's a little bit about me and my background.
That's amazing. I mean, like I have 20 years experience also, but in learning and development marketing. I mean, can we trade places?
Yeah.
That's always something that I'm really a skill I'm trying to develop. So, I mean, we'll talk out of the podcast. So thank you so much for being a guest on this show. And so let's just get into it. You have a lot to share with us today. So I hope our listeners are prepared because it's going to be good, right? It's going to be good. So the law of awareness says you must know yourself to grow yourself. So let's get started with self-awareness. So what does self-awareness mean to you, Jenna?
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. I think, well, for me, awareness in and of itself, awareness is the first step to any sort of change, transformation, or forward movement. So, it's really the key building block to seeing new results, whether it's in life or whether it's in business or both. And so self-awareness for me really is the first step to drive any sort of kind of change.
Mm-hmm. That's huge. I can't wait to really get into that. I love your perspective. I believe we all want to be self-aware. And you and I know as coaches that sometimes that's what is really holding our clients back. Like I personally have my own leadership and professional development series I do on a monthly basis. And most often people they're not just self-aware. I mean, we're in the month of March, right? It's a great time if you're having those challenges or you're feeling stuck. Hopefully, by listening to this podcast, you can glean on a few things, a few nuggets that we're going to share that can help you move forward and really reach your goals this year. So thank you so much. I really love that perspective. So now let's just talk a little bit more about self-awareness, right? And so what are some of the signs of self-awareness? I mean, are there any signs? How do you know that you even have self-awareness?
Yeah, great question. I think self-awareness is really having an understanding of yourself meaning you know yourself really well, you know your strengths, you know things that you're really good at, and you know where you have an opportunity to maybe build some growth muscle. So some things that aren't naturally in your strength zone, you have a pretty good understanding of what some of those things are. And, you know, the other really big part of self-awareness is, you know, beyond knowing and understanding yourself and your strengths and what you're really good at, is also the awareness and understanding that there's always room for growth. There's the understanding that, you know what, might make some mistakes along the way. It's a natural part of the human experience, but I know that I'm going to be able to learn and grow from those mistakes. Those to me would be some kind of signs of self-awareness, where maybe there's a lack of self-awareness, and I've experienced each of these things in my journey. But you know, there was a time when, you know, I would at one point in my professional career, I would kind of replay or revisit scenarios, conversations, meetings, and I would kind of replay them over and over in my mind, but without having a productive outcome of that thought activity, if that makes sense. So I would kind of replay things and kind of really think into what didn't go so well, but without really being able to leverage that. So that's an area where I really had to start to grow and learn about myself and really kind of gain some self-awareness. And you know, another example is when, you know, there have been times when I've been frustrated with myself. And those have been times that indicate to me, I think I've got some real growing here to do. You know, when I transitioned out of my corporate role and I launched my coaching and training practice, and I was kind of creating my home office environment, I was having some frustrations with myself and trying to go through that process. And what I realized about myself is I was trying to fit myself into the same structure I had in my previous environment, but I'm not necessarily a structured individual. I had some learning to do about my work style and my work processes. And so once I learned about myself and how to really best support my work style, I was able to create the environment that worked best for me. So I think, you know, signs of self-awareness are, you know yourself, you know your strengths, you know where you have opportunities to grow, and signs where maybe there's time to kind of explore some self-awareness and gaining deeper awareness, or times where maybe you might be experiencing some frustrations with yourself.
Okay. I mean, from what I'm hearing you say is that if you are experiencing, you know, signs that, or maybe, you know, you're lacking self-awareness, you know, there's no such thing as perfection, right? Like it's either you have it or you don't, right? And from all I'm also hearing you say is that there's growth, right? There's growth that comes with it. So that's very reassuring for anyone who's listening to this and say, oh my gosh, you know, I think I fall in this category and I fall in this category. And I know even as coaches, you know, we all want to be self-aware. And sometimes, you know, that's really what's holding our clients back, you know, and having that awareness that, okay, it's not a be all and all, you don't know, but then you can do something about it. So that's going to be my next question. For someone who realizes that, oops, you know, I don't have any self-awareness, I don't even think I know myself, you know, what can they do to really enhance their self-awareness? Because I'm thinking someone might be, you know, working, and work can also mean someone is just a housewife, for example, or someone could be that, it could be that they could be actually in the workplace in whatever role. And so self-awareness can definitely help someone to thrive in their workplace, depending on, you know, whatever workplace means to them. So what are some things that they can, you know, do to become self-aware and that can help them to thrive in whatever area that they find themselves?
Sure, absolutely. I think, you know, there are two strategies that that come top of mind. You know, one is there are so many different assessments out there to be able to learn about yourself and kind of gain a deeper understanding of oneself. One that I really like is something called a DISC assessment. That's something that I took. You remember, I was just talking earlier about when I made my transition from my corporate career to build my business.
Yes, I remember that.
I started experiencing, I was getting really frustrated with myself. Well, I took a DISC assessment, and that's how I learned about myself. And I learned about, you know, understanding my strengths a little more. I learned about the areas that I'm not actually wired to be in, very strong in. And that's why I'm experiencing some of the frustration I'm experiencing. So, a DISC assessment can really help you learn about yourself, your behavioral style, your communication preferences. It really can open up this whole world of understanding. Now, again, there are various assessments out there that you can leverage. That happens to be one of them, a DISC DISC assessment. So that would be kind of one tool that I really like. And the other strategy that I really like is leveraging a debrief method. A debrief method is really what Carl Jung would say is making the unconscious conscious. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. And so this process of making the unconscious conscious is really getting out of what's rolling around in your mind and getting it out to a piece of paper or something electronic, something where you can actually stare at eyeball to eyeball and do something with it. It's separating your thoughts from yourself so you can really start to kind of take action on them. And so a debrief method, the method that I use, especially in that foundational business building time, and I leverage with my clients now, is really a weekly debrief. And it's at the end of the week. So let's just say a Friday or a Saturday morning, asking 3 questions. And those 3 questions would be, number 1, what did I accomplish this week? And understanding that accomplishments can be tangible, but they could also be intangible. Meaning, did you build a new relationship, or did you make a difficult decision, or, but what are those things that you are accomplishing? That does a few things. It allows you to actually recognize and celebrate those things, and kind of releases dopamine in the process. And it allows you to be able to kind of leverage those accomplishments moving forward. The second thing would be, what lessons did I learn this week? Now, again, until you make the unconscious conscious and write them down, you might miss out on the opportunity that brings for growth. Because in those learning lessons, there could be models, there could be processes, there could be systems that you can leverage moving forward. And then the third question would be, what are my top 3 priorities for the week ahead to set yourself up for success? And that whole process is really designed to kind of set you up for success. Gain deeper awareness about yourself, what you're experiencing, and how you can leverage it as a platform to grow from moving forward.
This is powerful, what you just shared. I mean, anyone who listens to this call, even if you have the self-awareness or not, these 3 questions that Jenna shared, that they're just powerful. They're questions that would really help you to coach yourself. Right. So I really want to thank you so much for sharing that on the podcast. I like the fact that you didn't only share the strategies, but being able to use your own personal story, right? Kind of like humanize it and showing people that, okay, well, I'm a human and it happened to me too, and this is what I did. So if you're listening to this call, don't feel okay, there's just these people who they're experts, they know what they're talking about. I'm not anywhere close. No, we're telling you that we have lived it too. Jenna has lived it. We all have, and you have the opportunity to do something if you need to work on those strategies. I like those 2 mentions that you listed: the DISC assessment, for someone who can use to evaluate your self-awareness, and also talking about a debrief method for anyone to connect and have that conversation on a weekly basis. Wow, this is really, really good. Thank you so much, Jenna. One time I had someone believe common myths about self-awareness, right? It took some work for them to change their mindset, believing that it's something far-fetched. That's what they're thinking, that it's bringing up bad experiences if they have self-awareness. I mean, some myths that I was so surprised, it was the first time I heard of it. So if you're listening on this call and you have those myths about self-awareness and you're feeling stuck in your mind, it's time to let them go and become the self-aware person that you're supposed to be. This is just great. It's powerful. So where can guests find you to learn more? Someone might be thinking, what is this debrief method, right? I want to learn more about this assessment. where can they find you to learn more about this topic, to even have those conversations with you? Like, okay, I have thought about these 3 questions, right? And here's what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts? Can you really guide me towards my self-awareness? I think that would be something that, someone listening can even take the next step with, connecting with you. So where would they find you?
Yeah, thank you. So people can find me on my website. So that would be www.jennaarmato. That's Jenna Armato, A-R-M as in Mary, A-T-O, JennaArmato.com. And the link will be for my email available, but it's Jenna@attractengageinspire.com. So website, email, and I am on Facebook. I love Facebook. I love to connect with people there. So you can find me on Facebook as well at Jenna Armato.
Okay, that's great. And we have the podcast show notes, and so I would put your website there if that's okay. And so people can just click on there and probably go to your contact us page, or even set up a discovery call to just see, there are ways. And I know you can do that, maybe 30 minutes call free, just so they can connect with you and see other ways that we can help. I mean, I wish we could just stay on this call forever. It's so good. It's so good. So thank you so much. I know we've come to the end of this podcast. I continuously, I always wrap up my podcast with a signature question. What does empowerment mean to you as a leadership expert or coach? So in this unique series of women empowerment, that we're focusing on women, what does empowerment mean? What does women empowerment mean to you, Jenna?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I think women empowerment, for me, I mean, empowerment in general, or even empowerment as a leader is seeing value in other people. It's seeing potential in other people, and it's helping them see those things in themselves. It's giving them opportunities to be able to grow, develop, and explore what's within them. And so when I think of women's empowerment, to me, that means really truly seeing the value, seeing the potential, seeing the giftedness in women that we're working with, that we're collaborating with, that we're meeting in the coffee line, but just seeing the strengths, the giftedness, and everything that they bring to this world that brings value. And so that to me is really women's empowerment, is not only seeing those things and seeing those qualities in women, but also celebrating them and recognizing them, and helping lift them up, and doing that for one another. So that would be women empowerment for me.
That's awesome. I appreciate the golden nuggets. As a final thought, for those women listening to the call who might be going through a lot in their personal or professional life, especially in the area of self-awareness, what can you share with them to empower them this month?
Yeah, I'm reflecting back to something I heard when I was at a time that, for me, honestly, I was at a time where I felt really stuck. And I heard something that changed everything for me. I heard an interview with a business owner, a really successful business owner. And she said, you know what, I'll be honest with you. A year ago, I never would have imagined that I would be where I am right now. I never would have thought it possible to be in this place. I mean, a year prior, she was in a place where, she was down to the last few dollars in her bank account. Her, relationship had just ended. She had just kind of these series of things that were not going well in her life. And so to look at where she was in just the span of a year was absolutely incredible. And for me at the time, it gave me hope.
Right. Wow.
I said, okay. So what I did was I sat down and I wrote down, okay, well, where do I want to be a year from now? What looks different? Even though I didn't exactly know what it was, but what do I want to feel? How do I want to feel differently? What do I want to be different in my life? And wrote it down. I gave myself a year, and just took the step-by-step approach. So with that one thing that's written down, I want a new job. I want a new job where I feel strong, where I feel valued, where I feel like I'm giving my gifts and my talents. Okay, well, what's the first step I can take to get there? And so even that process of writing it down, just the simple process of writing it down, is actually the first step of bringing that thought and idea into physical form. And so, I share that to say that if you're in a place right now where you're looking to create some kind of change in your life, you never know what a year from now could look like and what possible.
That's it. Thank you so much for pouring those wonderful golden nuggets here. When I think about women, and even the women that I work with, sometimes what hold the women back is that we're looking for someone to give us permission, and so in Jenna's words in this podcast, I just want to challenge you to give your own self permission to embrace the change that she just shared, because you would never know till you do something different, even to your mind. You will never know. So I empower you. I challenge you to take that step as your own contribution to Women History Month. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jenna. I would like to appreciate you once again for being on this podcast, for being a blessing to all our listeners, especially the women. And I want to wish you the best in your professional and personal life. I just want to say thank you. Keep up the great work. Keep making a difference in the life of others. Beyond self-awareness, I know you're doing so many great things. And I'm hoping that people would contact you on your website, like you just shared, and see how you can help them even more, because I know you have a heart for this. So to our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in. I hope this episode has been great. It's been beautiful. Stay safe, be well, and I will see you next week, same time.